So a very good evening and welcome to our Joburg Community Action Network series of co-governance webinars. These webinars are a space for local communities to understand the city and to assist residents with prevalent issues. I'm Julia Fish, the Executive Director of JoburgCAN. If you have any questions for our guests, please make use of the chat and Q&A functions or raise your hand so we can unmute you. This session is intended to be a very strong Q&A for you to ask questions. So we will get to as many of them as possible in the last half hour of tonight's allotted time. This evening, we're talking about the City of Johannesburg's billing. JoburgCAN gets inundated with queries about billing disputes on a daily basis, much of the time getting a clear picture of what's going wrong, who to escalate the matter to, and to recommend ways to escalate disputes is not that easy because people can't articulate what they're trying to do about it. So it's a way of trying to, you've called a virtual call center, you've tried to get information on your account, but there's a whole bunch of stuff in the bill itself that can help you trace some of these issues and give you a starting point of what you should be paying, especially when you have a dispute and you're not therefore paying the full bill. So this is now further complicated by the municipal services trading reforms, where the entities like Joburg Water and City Power are responsible for their own billing. So there's multiple places that you can query a bill or have issues, and that's why we've got this webinar this evening. With prices going up also from next week, we thought now is an ideal time to help guide you through how to read your bill for meaning, like tariff increases, disputes, and payment methods. And the ideal person to sort through the noise is our guest this evening, Mr. Lufuno Mashau, who is the group head of RSSC, which is the Revenue Shared Services Center, and that's basically the central billing hub of the city. Lufuno is a seasoned municipal finance executive with extensive experience in local governments and financial management, infrastructure funding, revenue enhancement, and governance. He holds a Bachelor of Accounting Science from the University of South Africa and several other governance municipal finance qualifications. He is substantively the Chief Financial Officer of the Johannesburg Roads Agency and has been acting as the Group Head of Revenue for the City of Joburg since about March of 2026. In his current role, he's leading the city's revenue collection turnaround program focused on strengthening financial sustainability, improving revenue recovery, enhancing billing accuracy, which I think is a big one for many of our guests here this evening, and rebuilding public confidence in municipal services. A key aspect of his work is balancing robust revenue management practices with customer-centric approaches that prioritize service excellence, dispute resolution, and positive customer relationships, basically building back the trust deficit in the City of Joburg. His presentation today draws on strategic and operational experience in municipal revenue management, providing practical insights into how municipal billing systems work, the challenges municipalities face in maintaining accurate billing, and the collaborative role that residents, business, and municipalities must play in providing financial sustainability in the city. I personally have found Lufuno a breath of fresh air in the municipality. He is solutions-driven, gives practical interventions, and is just all-round willing to listen to problems. So I am very grateful to be able to host him for the benefit of all our residents this evening. Welcome, Lufuno.
Yeah. Good evening, Julia, and good evening to all the residents on the call. Thank you very much for that glorious introduction. And I hope that we'll use tonight to really engage with our residents, our customers, and see how we can help each other really understand this relationship, this quite frankly, just quite complicated relationship. It's very easy to engage with many of your other service providers, your cell phone network provider, your Wi-Fi network provider. Their bill is the same amount every month. You're being billed for 50 megabytes speeds. You know how much you're paying. But when it comes to municipal revenue, I think that's where the complications really start. And I want us to spend tonight really unpacking how we can help each other understand this environment, this highly complicated environment, but also what are some of the innovations that the city is putting in place to really assist residents and its customers to engage and build a better relationship. So thank you very much for that introduction. Much appreciated.
Okay, so let's start with the basics if we can. You said the bill is a lot more complicated. So we have an example of an average municipal bill that you've provided for us. And there's a lot of information here that not only identifies the account to the city, but can direct the customer in ways of getting assistance. I know for a lot of people on this call, this might seem like common knowledge, but when we're asked to assist, for example, with billing issues, you would be surprised by how many people don't know where to start. So let's point out some key information, for example. So obviously, you at the top of the bill, you've got your address and your information, but the key one is your account number. So here, of course, it starts with 5512. It's the one titled 1 account number. But there are two other really important ones, and that's in the actual body of the account, and those are your meter numbers. So your account number doesn't necessarily correlate to the meter number you have for either electricity or water.
That is correct. So oftentimes we experience residents who would say, you know, I've been paying my account, but I can't see my payments, you know, coming through on my statement, or I've been cut off despite having paid the account. So the account number, which is the first thing on our left side of, or on the front of the statement. So if you look at this screen that we're looking at, we've got the front of the municipal statement, and we've got the back of the municipal statement. So on the front of the municipal statement, that's where we identify the customer, we identify the property that the customer owns, and we've got some interesting attributes of that property in terms of what is it that we end up billing the customer for. We also have the latest information in terms of your opening balance and how much you would have paid and what is your current charges and the aging of your balance if you've got any balance there. So I think the first thing, as you indicated, Julia, is that customers need to then have their municipal account number accurate, because we use that as a reference when you make payment. So that reference number is your account number, but we've got other information such as your stand number, your address. You've got your physical address as well as your residential address displayed there on your statement. But also quite importantly, if you look at the township where you belong, in this case, we're using the township of Braamfontein as an example. You've got the date of your municipal bill as well as the statement date. So your statement date is the month for which this statement was issued. We issue statements once a month. But we also indicate when was the statement issued, which is the date at the top. And then as you come down with that particular front page of your statement, you then start seeing number of dwellings. So why is the number of dwellings important? This refers to the various type of structures that we have for accommodation. This can include houses, townhouses, flats, apartments. You could have a hotel, informal dwellings such as shacks or detached houses within the particular stand. So that is,
and that's also really important, particularly if you're applying for something like free basic services, because those go allotted to household. So if there's multiple dwellings, can those be assigned to different dwellings on your property?
100%. So, and there are certain charges that are attracted by the number of dwellings within the particular stand. So it is important to make sure that the number of dwellings indicated on your statements are corresponding with what is on the ground. So, for example, you might find a holding that has got a little cottage which is separate or detached from the main building. You might find that that cottage can attract certain fees on its own in terms of your sewer or refuse charges. So those are the type of things you need to be aware of. And if there is something around the information about your dwellings that you are not sure of, and this is particularly important, Julia, for our customers who have got sectional units, where you find that charges such as sewer and refuse are linked to the number of dwellings within that particular property. So that becomes very key as well. Then you've got your stand number. So your stand number is the portion of land that the city has allocated to you or that you have purchased, where there's improvements such as the buildings that we were talking about, the dwellings. And so that's essentially your ERF number. And that is in line with what would have been registered by the deeds office. And then we also have...
And that information, so I know a lot of people, when they escalate stuff to us, give us a street address. It really does help if the ERF number's involved, because that it's almost like using those three words. It like really pinpoints you in terms of the city's information, and it really helps. And that other bit where it says your region. So for example, this one says Region D, Ward 31. If you're raising an issue with the officers, it does help if you direct it to the regional office. So like, for instance, Region D revenue at joburg.org.za.
Maybe to give a simple example, if someone an address to where I'm situated, I'll give them my street number. So they'll find me very quickly. It will land them at my gate. But if I want to get someone to identify my property, I need to give them the ERF number. So the ERF number is important in that it gives details of the property, ownership of the property, and any other information linked to the property, such as valuation and so on and so forth. So the ERF number is the one that then matters the most when you are engaging with the municipality, and not necessarily your street address.
And then another key issue on this bill, so you mentioned particularly the date in which the bill was issued. Where do people find when they have to pay their bill? Because it's not universal across all bills, is it?
100%. That's a very good question. And then if we move further down the bill, you will notice that at the bottom of the bill, we've got your total due, which is the amount that you need to pay in order to settle your debt with the city. But we also have due date. When is this total due amount due to be paid? So in this case, you can see that the 30th of November was the due date. And the important thing about the due date is that any amount that we do not receive by due date after about 3 days, and we leave 3 days for a very important reason, that if you were to pay your bill using EFT, it takes up to 3 days for us to see their money on our system. So we would usually leave the 3 days grace period, right, to allow any payment that was made on due date to reflect. Then after, the city may start charging interest on that particular outstanding balance. So it's important that you respect the due date. And maybe just to make a point here, Julia, we've got different type of customers that we bill for different services. So we've got 5 services in total, which is rates, refuse, sewer, water, and electricity. Now, there are customers who are owning your sectional title properties. Those we only bill sewer and rates. I mean, refuse, removal, and rates. So in that case, these customers only receive one fixed bill per month. So their bill per month never changes. You've got your refuse removal and your rates charges. So what does this mean? It means every month we'll bill you the same amount. So what you can do as a customer to avoid issues of you forgetting your due date is you can write to us and request that we put you on a debit order, meaning the refuse and rates charges that we bill you on a monthly basis will simply be paid through the debit order, which then makes or gives assurance that you will never be in arrears with the city. And all you have to do is you set your debit order date. Once you've set your debit order date, we will then ensure that the due date for your monthly bill is after the debit order date, meaning the moment your debit order goes through, your account will be up to date and you'll never attract any charges. Maybe to
Lufuno,
add,
I can promise you there's a couple of people in the webinar right now whose eyeballs just got really wide, who are very unwilling to do a debit order, because in some circumstances, when suddenly you've got a skyrocketing bill in 1 month, they're going to, like, your bill would have gone from like 5,000 to 40,000, and that suddenly comes off your account.
there's a particular reason why I said customers who are on sectional schemes, because these customers are billed a fixed amount every month. It never changes, right? There's no water or electricity billed directly to these customers. That bill goes to their body corporates. So hence I'm saying we've got quite a lot of those customers in the city, and we encourage those customers who receive a fixed monthly charge to be on a debit order. And another added advantage, which is a new innovation recently launched for those type of customers and for other customers, if you pay your rates, property rates in advance for 12 months, we take off 10% as a discount to you. Meaning for these particular customers who are sectional title customers, there's a particular added advantage, meaning your debit order, you can pay your rates upfront, and then your debit order will only be on refuse charges. What is the advantage of that? Your upfront rates payment will be only 90% of your annual rates charges. 10% is a discount back in your pocket. So yes, for customers who are linked with consumption of water and electricity, there's a fluctuation in your monthly bill, and it will be difficult to have that on a debit order. But we do have customers like that who also are on a debit order, Julia.
Okay. So when you suddenly see that skyrocketing bill, where does one start to really try and understand where things have gone wrong? So you've got the billing period, for example. You've got a process where, John, if you just scroll slightly to the right with the actual numbers. So with that, you'll see that each of your metering things, so let's look at City Power. It says reading period, 23rd of the 9th to the 2nd of the 11th. And we see fluctuations in that. So that's a 41-day period. We've also got Joburg Water there, where the reading period is a 32-day period. It depends on your smart meter, or if someone's come out to read your meter or whatever, but those can change. And that's one place you can look to see why a monthly bill might be slightly higher. But another important thing is you've also got there, specifically with City Power, you've got your meter reading and consumption meter reading, and they've got an actual reading there. So it says actual reading, and then on Joburg Water it says actual reading. When there's a sudden jump, what we've noticed often is those are not actual readings, they're estimates. And the estimates tend to be billed slightly higher than the reading is for some reason. And that's a key place to look to see if you're getting estimates and if you can upload your own meter reading. So how do people make sure that their readings are accurate, that they're done for a specific period, and that they're getting actual readings?
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Julia. So I think the first thing The first question I always get, or the most common query, is that the city has billed me on estimated charges that are completely not aligned with what I'm consuming, right? Is that a valid query? And the answer is yes. If we are billing you on estimate, you are welcome to raise a query if our estimations are completely out of line, and the city can attend to ensuring that we capture your actual reading as soon as possible. But we must also take it back to the bylaw. When the bylaw for water and electricity were drafted, the drafters of the bylaw were always cognizant of the fact that the city may not be able to come out and read your meter on a monthly basis for practical reasons, such as capacity or any other challenge that the city might have, which is why, Julia, you would then have the bylaw for water allowing the city to estimate your consumption for up to 6 months, and for electricity for a maximum of 3 months. Does the city always abide by these 6 months and 3 months timelines? And the answer is no. There are times where the city may exceed its own bylaws and not take an actual reading in that period for a number of reasons. Sometimes we will find that there are meters that are faulty and no longer giving us the reading, which means they need to be changed. And the process to change the meter might actually take longer than the period stipulated in the bylaw. The other thing that could happen is that the readings that we take are not accepted in the system, which means we must now send someone to go do an audit to confirm that the readings are accurate. Or we also have situations where meters are transposed when they are installed, where one property is being built for a different meter than what is on the ground. So these are real challenges that we're aware of on the ground, and we are continuously and consistently working with customers to make sure that we resolve those issues. And once the evidence has been gathered, the city is then able to correct and make sure that what is on the bill aligns with what the customer actually consumed. Why is it important that customers must monitor their consumption and make sure that they're being billed with the meter that is outside their property and not any other meter? This is key, Julia, because the type of systems that the city uses with human intervention is prone to errors. And where there are errors, they need to be corrected. And I think the challenge is that sometimes it takes long for customers to have those errors corrected. And that is an indictment on us as the city. And we continue to endeavor really to make sure that we track and monitor all the queries that are sent through to us and that they are attended to as soon as possible. I know on this call, we've got about 137 customers or residents who have joined. And there would be one or two or more customers who have been sitting with a query that they've logged with us and they've escalated and we have not resolved it. So the real challenge really is that the city at times is not able to resolve these issues within the stipulated time frames, and it takes longer for the city to gather the evidence that enables it to be able to resolve these issues on the system. The second reason why I would say it's important for customers to monitor their consumption, Julia, is there are times where you can experience leakages, especially with your water consumption. So if you've got an internal leak undetected and we don't capture your actual readings for a period of time, you might end up in a situation where the leak goes undetected for a long period. And by the time we capture the actual reading, you find that the cost is completely unbearable. And because the water charge is based on a step tariff, when you have a leak, you experience what I would call double jeopardy, because number one, you are losing the water, you're not using it. And the second thing is that you can pay up to 3 or 4 times what you normally pay per liter or per kiloliter because of the step tariff. What the step tariff does is the more you consume, the more you pay. And households generally consume on average about between 18 and 25 kiloliters. But if you have a leak, that consumption can go to whatever the leak size is, and you never used that water, but you get billed at a very exponential rate per kiloliter. So that's one of the key reasons why it's important for customers to keep monitoring their consumption. Obviously, water meters are not smart meters yet. The technology is still way behind in terms of getting water meters to be smart, which means we are unable to use technology to detect when there's a leak. The best way to detect is by ensuring that the meter is read every month and that the customer is also monitoring their consumption regularly. So I just thought those are some key points that we need to talk to if we're going to deal with consumption-related issues, which I can bet now that they will be most prevalent in terms of the queries that customers have. Thank you.
I'm glad you mentioned the bylaw. Now, there's a few bylaws that kind of work in this space, but I think the most prevalent to most people is the debt collection and credit control bylaw. So when they've got a dispute, they raise it with the city. So 3 quick questions. What's the best and most efficient way to log a query or dispute with the city? What information must they provide? And most importantly, what must they keep paying despite having a dispute?
So that particular issue is actually covered in the Municipal Systems Act. So the drafters of the Act were already foreseeing that customers will have queries on their municipal bills, Section 102. So essentially what the Act says is that if you have a query and you've raised a valid query with the municipality, you don't have to pay the amount that you are disputing, but you do have to pay your average amount that you are accustomed to. So essentially, the city needs to then identify, working with you, what your average normal bill is, which you can continue paying. And the reason why we encourage customers to continue paying their normal average when they've raised a query is that we don't want them to indebt themselves, because what essentially then happens, Julia, is that if you stop paying altogether, the debt can grow to unaffordable levels because you are not necessarily putting money away on a monthly basis in anticipation of that corrected bill sometime down the line. So what we then encourage customers, which is the right thing to do, is to say, pay your normal average while you are disputing the particular bill. So there are 2 ways to look at it. The city could be billing you, depending on the circumstances, for 5 services, and you happen to be querying one of those 5 services, meaning the 4 that you are not querying, you should ideally continue paying your normal amount. And for the service that you're querying, let's assume your normal water consumption charge is 2,000 Rand per month, and we send you a bill of 20,000, meaning the 2,000 remains payable every month, whereas the 18,000 additional charge is what you are querying. So that 18,000 will then form the basis of your disputed amount in terms of Section 102 of the Municipal Systems Act. And you can put that 18,000 as a side amount. The account can be flagged to ensure that we do not disconnect you. And the query that you have raised on the account can then be resolved until you get to the resolution point. Now, here's another difficulty. The receiving an 18,000 or 20,000 bill instead of 20,000 could be wrong, and the council can correct that. But it could also be correct, and the council would still be entitled to collect that amount. So now I think the challenge is some customers would then raise a query and hope that the resolution of it will mean that the balance they owe will be reduced. Every query must be dealt with based on its merit, and customers raising queries must have that in mind all the time, that the fact that you've raised a query does not necessarily mean you qualify for a reduction of the bill once the query is resolved. Yes, that might be the ultimate outcome, which will be great for the customer, but it could also end up on the side where the customer is required to pay the balance that they have queried. And I think it's good to then approach with some pragmatism to say, yes, I've raised a query because I'm not accustomed to this level of billing. But once the city has investigated and given you feedback, the feedback might actually mean that you have to pay. And then at that point, you can enter into what we call a payment arrangement to say, I don't have 18,000 lying around and I can't afford to pay this bill that you insist is accurate. With evidence provided by the city and with you now satisfied that their money is payable, you can then enter into a payment arrangement wherein you can pay that amount over an extended period of time. And the city does make those available to customers. Julia?
So once it doesn't always happen, but when you've had a query resolved, the bill that we have in front of us is quite a neat one. I've seen some that read like a discount till slip, where things have been corrected and changed, but now suddenly, everything gets reallocated. So money is made into a credit, all the disputed bills are given to you as a credit, then the new numbers come on, and we end up with something that literally, like I said, reads like a discount till slip. It's long, it makes no sense. So how do you start sorting through a bill where there's a bunch of reversals and reallocations to understand if that reallocation, for example, is correct? So they haven't charged you a year's worth of consumption at that step tariff that you talk about.
Correct. Yeah. No, look, I mean, I think the first thing to really understand is what I explained earlier in my opening, to say, obviously, we're dealing with quite complicated levels of billing here with the step tariffs involved for both water and electricity. And depending on the type of customer you are, you might find that your meter also has what we call a factor. The higher the pipe that you use, you might find that your meter has a factor, which means we must take what you have consumed, multiply by the factor involved to arrive at your actual consumption and so on. So the most common queries that we receive for consumption for both water and electricity are around where there are estimated charges which are later reversed and actual charges billed. Now, in that case, Julia, I think the system is built to be able to accurately reverse your interim charges and then bill you based on actuals for the period involved. And then the team at Joburg Water and City Power would have done what we call an adjustment reversal, where they will then go and capture the actual reading against the last actual reading, which then reverses automatically your interim estimated charges. All your payments that you would have made before are kept on the system. So the reversals does not reverse your payments. So all your payments will be kept, and then only the actual charges will then be populated, which then forms the basis of your current charges, which can go back some up to 3 months for electricity and up to 6 months for water. And maybe just by comparison, some first world cities like Paris allow water charges to be estimated for up to 12 months before the city council sends you an actual reading. That's just an interesting stat in terms of what other cities internationally or in the first world are doing. So our 6 months estimated charges for water is not completely outside of the norm. However, customers can still monitor their own consumption. And if you realize that what we are estimating you is way less than what you are consuming, you can be prudent and then pay a little bit extra into your account to cover for the underestimates. Or you can save money aside for the day when we send you the actual readings, and then you can pay that additional charge. But in terms of the queries that customers are raising, Julia, it's important that when you raise the query, you are also clear in terms of what the issue is, insofar as the consumption is concerned, and so that the team at the back office, when they receive that particular query, they know exactly what they need to attend to. So be precise, and try and attach evidence if you can, in terms of how you've observed your billing to be inaccurate.
Okay, so we're going to get to some of the innovations that you guys have that can try and sort through some of this, like the CSD app, in a minute. But I think it's important to start diving into some questions. So we got some from residents throughout the day when we started advertising this. One from Eleanor says, would like to know why I've not received my June account from the City of Joburg. Can't access my account on the app. Sent an email requesting the account, to which I've had no response. I have paid a little more than last month, as I was due to pay on the 25th and didn't want to be late. How should I proceed? Why are the accounts not forthcoming this month? So when can people expect to be able to receive their municipal account?
I'm not sure if this is a systemic issue or an isolated issue with that particular customer, but we can certainly investigate and get back to her. Julia, you do have my details, so I think feel free to share my email address with the customer, and then I can look into that particular matter. Our accounts usually go out from the 5th of the month, and what happens is that we bill per region. So there will be different portions that we bill. We don't bill all customers in one go. But you should ideally get your statement almost every on a particular date every month. So if she's unable to access her account, it could be that maybe there's an issue in terms of some accounts can go into errors while we're busy with the billing process. And if an account has gone into an error or exception, it does take a while before the city is able to release that account to go to the customer. So take, for example, if we pick up that your consumption has increased above the normal consumption, we usually withhold the account and investigate first before we send the account out to the customer. If we're satisfied that it is indeed your consumption that has gone up, we then allow the account to go out. There are some system errors that could happen as well, but this affects a very small population of the about 1.1 million bills that we issue every month. So it could be that this particular customer is affected. Julia?
And then one from Anne, why have I suddenly been receiving accounts for a property I've never heard of before and definitely never owned? The first time this account was sent to me was on the 27th of October last year. I've sent it to the city 3 times and received no assistance.
So I think as part of our data collection, as part of our data enrichment, we could end up linking a particular account to a particular cell phone number, which, as you know, people change cell phone numbers, and these network operators could end up recycling some of these numbers to new customers. So I'm suspecting that could be a case of a recycled number. I'm not sure of the facts, but again, this is one of those that we can have escalated. The escalation to my office will not just be me resolving the issue. It will also be me investigating why the 3 times that he has sent it it wasn't resolved, because I expect my officials or my colleagues to attend to these issues as and when they are raised by customers, not on the fourth time or when it's escalated to the group head.
I've already seen several of those in the chat, so I think we're going to buckle down for trying to respond to that quite a lot. There's another one from Kirsten. She says she's received multiple pre-termination notices and fees on her account before she's actually in arrears. She's tried to change her due date, but with no luck. And there's almost 4,000 despite not being in credit on her account. So how do those pre-termination notices work, and how do we kind of deal with those kind of charges?
Well, as I indicated earlier, the interest charges, pre-termination notice, or cutoffs are only sent if there is no payment received after due date. That's the golden rule. The reasons why payment has not been received can vary from customer to customer. But in this particular case, I would say there is case for us to investigate further. Why, if the account is on a credit, there would still be those charges. But the system has been programmed to issue a pre-termination notice if the balance is above a certain amount and it's a certain number of days after due date. So we will then have the system issue an instruction for a notice to be printed and delivered to the customer.
Susan said she received a 32,000 Rand account for postpaid electricity, but they're on prepaid and have been for a number of years. It all started when they got a new prepaid meter. That's when they started billing us for postpaid electricity as well, and it took us months of frustrating visits to the offices to sort out. 2 months later, they reversed the whole amount, which we were incorrectly charged again, leaving us with a 32,000 Rand bill for postpaid electricity. How does she even start sorting out this mess?
Yeah, so I think there I would need to understand more information around why she was given a new meter in the first place. If she already had a prepaid meter, why was the meter changed? I think there would be a reason why that triggered City Power to come and change the meter and convert it to postpaid. So I'm not saying this is the case with Susan, but we've got cases where customers that were on prepaid had their meters breached. And once we pick up the breach, we would then issue a penalty. We have issued penalties a few times on certain customers, and there are certain number of times when we've realized that issuing penalties alone is not assisting, where we end up converting those customers back to postpaid to avoid, because once the prepaid meter is breached.
Yeah, but I think in this case, she's paying for both. I think she's paying for a prepaid, but for some reason, postpaid is coming up on her municipal bill.
Yeah, well, if she's paying for, there's no way you can pay for both postpaid and prepaid. So once the meter is converted to prepaid and you're paying, you're vending, then it shouldn't be showing on your account as a postpaid meter. Hence, I'm saying that calls for further investigation. But I would like to understand whether she has raised this with City Power, if she has a reference number for that, and then we can investigate how City Power has attended to that.
Then a strange one. Since April this year, I'm getting statements without my property rates amount. I've been paying property rates for almost 9 years and nothing has changed on my end. I've already reported the issue, but I understand that I'm not the only one with this problem and still getting statements without the property rates portion, so one of the 5. How can I go about dealing with this? And they've attached a reference number.
So the only time your statement can come without property rates is if, for whatever reason, the valuation of your property moved to a different stand or to a different account. So we will have to investigate whether that is the case. And then we need to find where that new account is, because definitely the city is still billing an account, which maybe at this stage she's not receiving yet. And what could have been the trigger for that change? So we'll need to investigate that.
And then Susan says she's tried numerous times to change the due date on her accounts. And I believe myself, I know we've been told this is possible, but her emails just get ignored. She's gone into the walk-in centers and told they can't help her. She must send an email.
So I think at the end of the call, there are different email addresses that I'll share for our various regional offices. I think it's easier to rather email the team, and they can then send that information through for the team that is responsible for due date adjustment to do the adjustment. I know that some of our working centers are not equipped to do that any longer with some of the changes we've had with the trading services reforms, where billing functions have moved to the entities. And they're not necessarily represented at all the walk-in centers. So we do need to then have that function attended to by back office, which needs to be logged as a call and sent through to them.
Yeah, so if everyone who's registered for this webinar, we will send you both a recording of the session, the bill that we showed you earlier, that infographic, as well as the key email addresses and information that Lufuno will share with us, so that you can escalate these issues yourself or know who to approach when you've got these issues. Someone said, our complex received a surprise estimate billing that was over 100K more than our usual spend. They've been estimating ever since, and then replaced our common property meter with a smart one a few months ago. They are still estimating, and we have had no luck in sorting this out despite endless calls and 2 reference numbers.
Yeah, so now this is a combination of a very high bill from the previous meter estimated. Now the new meter is also being estimated. So yeah, that does sound like a bit of a fruit salad of problems. So I think if we can get that particular account escalated to my email, Julia, we can then, especially because it's a complex and it affects a lot of residents. So I will definitely attend to it from my office.
Gabby said her mother is a registered pensioner and applied for free basic electricity or the pensioner electricity benefits at the beginning of the year. The application was submitted through City Power representatives who were assisting residents at a church in the Bramley View area, and all the required supporting documents were provided. She uses a prepaid electricity meter and was expecting to receive the monthly free electricity allocation after approval. However, to date, no free electricity units or rebates has been received for her prepaid meter.
Did we say that she received confirmation that her application was successful?
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
So, is there a way that obviously there's something that other people need to keep in mind when you're a pensioner and you get rates rebates? Those fall away when they do a general valuation roll. So every 5 years when they do a GVR, you need to reapply. And that goes for the other benefits as well. So where does one go to apply for such rebates?
Yeah, so there's various platforms. We've got forms available on our website where you can download them, complete them, and submit them at our working centers, where the team responsible for rebates applications at our working centers can then process those. But it's important that you receive feedback that your application has been successful, because all of these rebates have got criteria that must be met. And you have to meet that criteria at the time of applying. You may have met the criteria before, does not mean that you'll meet the criteria the next time you apply. So that's also important, that feedback is received. And if the feedback has not been received, you must use your application reference number to follow up until you get that feedback. Then after that feedback, you can then expect to see the rebate showing on your account.
There's also one that says we need help with the tariff charges as we're currently charged as business, but we are residential sectional title. Any idea how we can tackle this with the municipality?
Yeah, so we've had a number of these issues with especially with sectional titles or sectional schemes, where at times you find that some sectional schemes actually have businesses running inside, especially the modern ones where you've got spas and restaurants and other things that are built as part of your lifestyle type of arrangements within the scheme. Those could potentially end up attracting some business charges. I'm not saying it's the case in this particular one, but residents must just be aware that, once these estates start building these lifestyle centers, which are also residential areas, there could be charges that are attracted. I think there's a constitutional court case between the City of Johannesburg and Greenstone Crest, where the courts have upheld that, those particular residential areas must be charged business tariffs. But in this particular case, I can then request that we be given an opportunity to investigate it, to understand why they would be billed business rates when they are a residential outfit.
And then someone asks, in regards to refuse charges, do you still get charged the standard 456 Rand a month if you have 1 or 2 bins?
So for residential properties, we bill you based on your valuation. And for sectional schemes, we bill based on the number of units. So I'm not sure exactly what is the circumstance of this particular customer. But if you are a residential property, single dwelling, you will be billed based on your property market value for refuse and not on the number of bins.
And then someone says, where and how can we request an actual reading when we've been receiving estimates to take place on our property? And for example, like how can people upload their meter readings?
So if you go onto www.e-joburg.org.za, which is our eJoburg website, you are able to upload your readings online. But I do need to caution customers that the readings that you upload, it's not a guarantee that the city will be able to use them, because the way that the billing cycle works is that we can only take actual readings up to a particular date. And after that date, we either estimate the account or we either use the actual received by that date or we estimate the account. So if we receive the actual reading after the date, we are unable to use that particular actual. There is something that we are working with City Power and Joburg Water to try and improve, is that when you go into that platform to upload your readings, we can then indicate what that date is, the date by when we need to receive the readings. Meaning we will not encourage a customer to continue giving us a reading when the date has passed. So that is just a tech upgrade we need to do, Julia.
And there's a few of these. So I've decided to go off grid with electricity, solar, and borehole. Do I only have to pay the rates and taxes and refuse pickup, or are there other costs that I must pay in addition to the ones listed above? So I think there's sanitation charges in some cases when it comes to a borehole, for instance.
Yeah. So the city has got 2 charges. So there's a demand charge for water and an availability charge for water, right? In case a customer no longer uses the water. So essentially, if you are a normal customer using our water, you will be billed for water and sewer. And the sewer is either billed based on your stand size or billed on consumption if you're a business customer. So there are businesses that are on borehole. We will then bill them sewer availability charge, meaning the water from their borehole is going into the city's sewer system. So they have to pay for the sewer service. And then for electricity, customers who are no longer using electricity still have access to electricity. And we all know customers can say that they are off-grid, but we know that the base load is still Eskom and City Power, meaning if anything happens to your solar or generator, you still need to fall back onto us. So the first thing that you must do if you go off-grid is to inform City Power. You can visit any of their service delivery centers and fill in your information to indicate to City Power that you now have a solar system installed. This will also assist City Power in their planning process, because energy has to be planned for. So it assists. So City Power has been running a campaign to ask customers to come and register their solar systems. I think Eskom has been doing the same. So it's important that you inform us once you have installed your solar network. But that does not mean you will be completely exonerated from paying for the network availability, because for as long as you've got those services connected to your property, you can still use them whenever you wish. So that availability also assists in maintaining that network to make sure that it's always available to you to use.
Thank you. And there's a few of these as well regarding leaks or issues outside of the border of the property. So what happens where my meter outside was faulty and I had a leak and it went undetected for just over a month, plus the meter started bursting out water for 3 days. I reported the burst and once COJ officials attended to this burst meter, the leak was stopped. And then I noticed, because I track my usage and take pictures, who bears the charge of what was wasted due to a leak of faulty infrastructure by the municipality?
Very important question. So up until the meter itself is the responsibility of Joburg Water, right? After the meter is the responsibility of our customers, which is why it's important that customers must regularly appoint plumbers, or if they're able to do it themselves, monitor their internal pipes and infrastructure to make sure there are no internal leaks. But outside of, before the meter, that's our responsibility. And if you log that call and the meter somehow registers the leak on the meter itself, that still is the responsibility of council. So the council will take the full brunt of that, and will also change that particular meter if the leak was as a result of the meter itself being faulty.
So we're running out of time a little bit, but I do please encourage people. We will take some of these questions and forward them on to Lufuno, especially ones that have reference numbers, and go through those. But I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell people a little bit more about some of the innovation that's happening within your office and the things that are changing. For example, the metering measures you're putting in place to improve accuracy, or the new CSD app.
100%. So thank you, Julia, and thank you to everyone that joined the call. So the innovations really, if you go onto Google, which is the Android and iOS, the Apple Store, you can download an app which is called COJ CSD, or COJ Central Service Delivery. This app is able to verify your identity using Home Affairs system. And once that verification is done, it will then link all your accounts that you have of properties within the City of Johannesburg. You are then able to pay those accounts immediately, online with ease, anytime. You can download the account statement, you can pay it. You can also pay your traffic fines if you have any traffic fines. It's always best, to get to the roadblock with a peace of mind, knowing you don't owe any traffic fines and you don't spend 30 minutes trying to sort out. So that innovation is also there, where you can pay your fines. There's more other services that we want to add onto that platform, where we enable customers to then pay for services such as the Joburg market, the zoo, and others will follow. So all city services will be available on this app. It is an app owned by the City of Johannesburg, and you are free to download it at any time on your Android or Apple device. In future, we'll also avail the process for you to upload your readings on this particular app as well. So it's very, very exciting innovation. And the other good thing is, within 15 minutes of you paying on that app, we're able to see your payment on SAP. Meaning, if we were about to come cut you off, we should be able to stop and reverse that particular cutoff. So that's some of the innovations. There's more to come, but we'll continue to engage our customers on them. Thank you, Julia.
I think that real-time payment really gets rid of a lot of the questions we had about pre-termination notices and due dates and all of that kind of stuff, because it is instant. So thank you so much, Lufuno. I'd like to thank you for taking your time to join us, being so helpful and offering your space for us to escalate issues. Lufuno and I participate in a monthly dispute resolution platform where we've raised a lot of these issues, 10 high-level problems that most people are experiencing through their billing platform. And these are ongoing issues that we're hoping to resolve, but it's always great to have real examples with reference numbers so that we can track where things are going wrong in the system. For those asking particularly about property valuations and GVR objections, please see the last webinar that we ran with Sihle More, who is the head of the property branch. She spoke a little bit about how you can raise objections to that. We've also got some more information on our website when it comes to property rates. So please attend to those questions with that webinar and that information. This webinar will be available on our website in the coming days. Please take note that tariff increases come into effect from the 1st of July. Therefore, you will see changes effective from the end of July bill, but more noticeably at the end of August because of how those billing dates work. Electricity is going up by 8.6%, water by 12.5%, sewer by 11%, refuse by 6.2%, and your property rates bill is going up by 3.6%. I must stress, however, though, this is an average, and certain charges like the increase in water demand levy are not included in that increase, but you will see that in the fixed charges section, and that is going up by about 62% from 64 Rand to 124 Rand. So you are going to see some changes in your bill at the end of July and from August. The CSD app is available through both Google Play and Android. We'll also share those with some of the information that was given with things that you can contact and places you can find stuff. And give us some feedback as JoburgCAN as to how it works for you as residents so that we can help them troubleshoot some of the issues with the app. On our website, you can catch up on a very popular webinar we ran with HBG Schindler's attorneys on how to dispute your municipal bill a couple of years ago. If you still have some burning questions about what happens when you think your bill is wrong, under the Webinar Hub tab, there's information there. But then there's also under resources, there's a whole section on billing. On our website, I'd just like to thank Lufuno again, thank the RSSC team, and please encourage people to email us at info@joburgcan.org.za with the reference numbers for tonight's issues if you would like us to discuss them further with the RSSC division. So thank you so much. Until next time, from me, Julia Fish, from Lufuno at RSSC and the whole JoburgCAN team, thank you and good night.